They didn't expect much from her. In fact, many thought it was a joke. When she first walked toward the ring, the crowd chuckled. Some even rolled their eyes. She looked too small, too soft, too unprepared. Her gloves seemed oversized. Her expression didn't scream confidence. It screamed newbie. You know the look. That look of someone stepping into a world where they don't belong. The announcer called her name. A few people clapped out of politeness. But no one thought they were witnessing the start of something special. No one thought this would be the moment everything changed. Even her opponent, seasoned, sharp, and twice her size, looked amused. She smirked, leaned back on the ropes, and mouthed something that looked like, "This won't take long." And, to be honest, most of the audience agreed. They had seen these mismatches before. A beginner comes in with heart but no real chance. A couple of rounds, maybe. Some swinging, a stumble or two, and then it's over. But not this time. Because this girl, this so-called underdog, had something no one in the crowd could see. Not yet. She had trained in silence. She had cried behind closed doors. She had pushed through bruises, failures, and self-doubt. And while the world was laughing, she had been learning. See, people love to cheer for champions. But they rarely recognize them before the gold. They look at the medals, the headlines, the interviews. But they miss the lonely nights. The early mornings. The setbacks. The moments when quitting felt easier than continuing. She had those moments. Plenty of them. She had been knocked down more times than she could count. But each time, she got back up. Not because someone told her to, but because something inside her refused to stay down. So when the bell rang, it didn't just mark the start of a fight. It marked the start of a story. One that no one saw coming. She didn't explode with wild punches. She didn't come out swinging like someone with something to prove. She stayed calm, measured, focused. And slowly, people started to notice. The smirk on her opponent's face began to fade. The casual stance shifted. The confidence wavered. She was landing hits, clean ones. Sharp, smart, unexpected. Each round, she grew stronger. Each minute, the joke turned into silence. Then into awe. By the third round, the crowd had stopped laughing. By the fifth, they were leaning in. By the sixth, they were on their feet. Because what they were watching wasn't luck. It wasn't chance. It was earned. It was real. This wasn't just a fight. It was a reminder. That heart beats hype. That grit outlasts glamour. That champions aren't born when the lights are on. They're made when no one's watching. And now, finally, people were watching. Not out of curiosity, but out of respect. Because the girl they doubted was no longer just a girl in the ring. She was something else entirely. And the best part? She was just getting started. She didn't grow up dreaming about belts or titles. There were no posters of fighters on her bedroom walls. No talks about becoming a champion. In fact, she stumbled into boxing almost by accident. It started as a dare. A joke between friends. One evening, while scrolling through her phone, she came across a local boxing gym ad. The place didn't look special. Cracked walls, rusty lockers, a single ring in the corner. But something about it pulled her in. She showed the ad to a friend and laughed. "Imagine me doing this." Her friend laughed back. "You? In a ring? You'd last 5 seconds." That stuck with her. She wasn't sure why, but it did. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something deeper, something waiting to be woken up. So she signed up. Just one session. Just to try. She walked into the gym with borrowed shoes and a hoodie 2 sizes too big. Everyone there looked like they belonged. Muscles. Confidence. Sharp eyes. No one looked at her like a future fighter. Not even the coach. He gave her a look, half skeptical, half annoyed, and said, "Wrap your hands. Let's see what you got." She had no stance. No rhythm. Her punches missed the pad more than they hit. But she kept showing up. Every day after school. Every weekend. Every free hour. No shortcuts. No selfies. Just sweat, pain, and silence. At first, she was invisible. Then she became the girl who keeps coming back. Eventually, she earned a nickname. Not because of skill but because of persistence. Stone heart. Not flashy. Not fast. But unbreakable. She wasn't chasing anyone else's dream. She was chasing her own limits. At home, things weren't easy. A small apartment. A tired mother working 2 jobs. No one there really understood what she was doing in the gym every night. They thought it was a phase. Just something to burn off energy. But to her, it was becoming something more. The ring became her escape. Her mirror. Her test. It stripped her down. Showed her who she really was. And the more time she spent there, the more she realized something surprising. She didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to improve. One punch at a time. One round at a time. She started sparring. At first, she lost every time. The more experienced girls moved like water. Her punches landed on air. She came home with black eyes and swollen knuckles. But she never stopped. That caught her coach's attention. One day, after practice, he called her over. "You got grit," he said. "That can't be taught. Everything else, we'll figure it out." That was all she needed. Just one voice that believed. From that day, everything changed. Her routine got sharper. Her goals clearer. She started watching tapes. Studying footwork. Timing her combos. Her life, which once felt aimless, now had direction. She didn't care about the noise outside. She didn't care about people laughing or doubting. She was building something. Quietly. Patiently. And with each drop of sweat on that gym floor, something inside her was hardening. She didn't know when her moment would come. She didn't even know if it ever would. But she knew this. When it did, she'd be ready. It wasn't just about fighting anymore. This had become her life. Her mornings started before the sun. No alarm needed, her body just knew. She'd lace up her worn-out sneakers and head out for a run through the empty streets. The world still asleep, but her mind already buzzing. Each step, a rhythm. Each breath, a promise. By the time the city woke up, she had already done the work most people skipped. School was just a blur. Classes, homework, quick meals, none of it stuck. Her mind was always in the ring. Counting seconds. Visualizing combos. Feeling the bounce of the canvas under her feet. The gym became home. There were no cameras. No cheering crowds. Just the sound of leather gloves hitting bags, the sharp bark of a coach's command, the squeak of sneakers on the floor. She trained like she had something to prove. But not to anyone else. To herself. Some days, her body screamed for rest. Her knuckles bled through the wraps. Her legs trembled after endless rounds. But she kept going. Because every drop of sweat was a step closer. Every bruise was part of the blueprint. Her coach pushed her harder now. No more easy drills. No more soft words. Again. Faster. Tighter guard. Don't flinch. She didn't flinch. Not anymore. She began sparring with fighters above her weight class. Tougher, stronger, more experienced. And still, she stood her ground. It wasn't about winning those sessions. It was about learning, adapting, growing. And she did. Fast. The girl they once ignored was now the one others watched from the corner of their eye. They noticed the speed in her hands, the calm in her eyes, the way she moved like she belonged. Her name started to spread. Slowly, quietly. Just whispers at first. "Hey, that girl, she's got something." It was around this time she got the offer. A local tournament. Amateur level, but with real pressure. Real fighters. Real eyes watching. Her coach handed her the flyer. "You ready for this?" he asked. She didn't answer right away. She looked at it, read the names, felt the weight of it. Then finally she nodded. "I've been ready." The lead up to the fight felt different. The air was heavier. The gym was quieter. Every second mattered now. Every punch, every slip, every breath. She didn't train like she was hoping to win. She trained like losing wasn't an option. The night before the fight, she couldn't sleep. Not because of fear, but because of fire. The kind that burns in your chest when you're standing on the edge of something big. She lay in bed, fists clenched under the sheets, visualizing everything. The walk to the ring. The bell. The first jab. The sweat. The sound of the crowd fading away. She wasn't scared of the fight. She was hungry for it. The morning came fast. Bright lights. Taped hands. The sharp smell of sweat and nerves in the locker room. Her name was called. She walked out, heart pounding, face calm. No one in the crowd knew her story. No one there knew how many times she had fallen, failed, fought through tears. They just saw a girl in gloves. And they had no idea what was about to happen. The bell rang. It was quiet for a second. Just a split second. Then everything snapped into motion. Her opponent came out strong. Fast footwork, sharp jabs, confidence pouring off her with every move. She had done this before. She looked like she belonged. The crowd leaned in, expecting a quick round. Another amateur crushed by someone with more experience. But from the first second, something felt different.
She didn't panic.
She didn't rush. She didn't swing wild like most first-timers. She stood her ground. Her eyes stayed locked on her opponent's shoulders, watching for every twitch. Her stance was tight, balanced, focused. The kind of focus that doesn't shake. First jab came fast. She slipped it.
Countered.
Not a knockout punch, but it landed. A sound echoed through the ring. Glove on cheek. It got people's attention. Her opponent reset. Came in again. Threw a hook.
Blocked.
Body shot.
Clean. Precise.
No one in the audience expected that. A few people looked at each other like, "Did you see that?" The first round kept going, and with every second, the story shifted. The crowd stopped waiting for her to fall. They started watching to see what she'd do next. Her coach didn't shout.
He didn't need to.
She already knew what had to be done. Stick and move.
Breathe.
Don't get caught in the moment. She wasn't trying to prove anything. She was just doing what she trained to do. The bell rang again. End of round 1. No damage taken. A few clean hits landed. She walked back to her corner with steady steps. Her opponent not so steady anymore. Round 2 started. This time, the energy had changed. The crowd leaned forward. The whispers started. She's actually holding her own. No way she wins this, right? The fight picked up pace. Her opponent came in more aggressive now, more force, less patience.
She dodged. Rolled. Jabbed.
Her movements weren't flashy, but they were sharp. She took a hit to the shoulder, didn't flinch. Took another to the side, still standing. But then she saw her opening. A tiny mistake. A dropped hand. A step too slow. She moved fast. 1-2 combo, jab, cross. Glove snapped back her opponent's head. And just like that, the crowd roared. It wasn't the volume that shook the room. It was the shift. They weren't just watching anymore. They were invested. By round 3, the entire gym felt different. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't luck. This was earned. She was calculating every move, reading her opponent like a book. Every breath controlled. Every dodge intentional. Blood on her lip. Sweat in her eyes. Didn't matter. She was in the zone now. That rare place where time slows down and instinct takes over. Every sound faded. Every doubt disappeared. She wasn't fighting to survive. She was fighting to win. Each time the bell rang, she came back stronger. Each round, her opponent looked more tired, more frustrated. And now, for the first time, she looked afraid. The one who walked in laughing now knew this was real. She wasn't facing a beginner anymore. She was facing a storm made of hours, pain, silence, and grit. And that storm wasn't done yet. Round 4 began, and by now, no one in the building could sit still. What started as a mismatch had turned into something else, something electric. The crowd was no longer just watching a fight. They were witnessing a shift. From underdog to equal. From ignored to undeniable. And she wasn't done yet. Her opponent tried to reset. Tried to remind herself who she was. She threw fast combos, stepped heavier, tried to intimidate. But the fear had crept in. Not panic, just doubt. A tiny crack in the armor. And she saw it.
Clear as day.
She circled. Measured. Her footwork smooth, never rushed. Every move had purpose. A feint. A slip.
A jab.
Another jab. Then across. Each punch had weight behind it now. Not just physical, but emotional. Years of being overlooked, laughed at, doubted, all behind each swing. Her coach didn't yell anymore. He just nodded. Because this wasn't about instructions anymore. This was instinct.
Flow.
Rhythm. Her opponent charged in, desperation showing. Big swing.
Miss.
And in that split second, she stepped in. Body shot. Hook. Uppercut. The crowd gasped. It wasn't a knockout, but it felt close. Her opponent stumbled back, gloves up, legs shaky. She didn't chase. She didn't need to. She stood there, breathing deep, eyes locked on her target.
Calm.
Controlled. The ref counted.
8. 9.
The fight went on. But something had shifted. Her opponent's punches slowed. Her defense got sloppy. And now, she was the one in control. Each round that followed built on the last. Round 5. Round 6. She never let up. She didn't fight with anger. She fought with clarity. She wasn't trying to hurt her opponent. She was showing the world who she really was. People in the crowd started chanting her name. Not loudly at first, just a few voices. But it grew. By round 7, everyone was on their feet. Phones out. Cameras rolling. Because no one wanted to miss what was happening. She was writing her story with every movement. And she was doing it her way. There were no shortcuts in her journey. No lucky breaks. No rich sponsors or viral moments. Just repetition, discipline, and belief. The final round came. Round 8. The air was thick. Her coach leaned in, voice low. You've already won, but finish it like a warrior. She nodded once. She stepped back into the ring. Not as a joke, not as a beginner, but as something far more powerful. A symbol of what it means to rise when no one's clapping. To keep going when no one sees you. To train in the dark until the spotlight finds you. The bell rang one last time. She didn't rush. She let her opponent come to her. Ducked under the first punch. Countered. Then a clean left hook to the jaw. It landed so perfectly. The room fell into stunned silence. Her opponent dropped to one knee. Not knocked out, but broken. Not by force. By truth. The ref stepped in.
Called it.
And that was it. The crowd exploded. Her arms didn't shoot up. She didn't jump around or scream. She just stood there, chest rising and falling, letting the moment settle. Because deep down she already knew. She had walked into that ring with nothing. No one believed. No one bet on her.
But now?
They were all watching. The gym didn't feel the same after that night. When she walked through the doors, heads turned. People paused their workouts just to glance her way. The same place where no one had noticed her months ago, now it echoed with quiet respect. Not because she won, but because of how she won. With control, with focus, with heart. She didn't post about it, didn't shout or show off. No fancy captions or long speeches. Her gloves were worn, her shoes still had holes, but now her name carried weight. New fighters started asking her for tips. How to move, how to breathe through the chaos. She didn't say much, just showed them. Quietly, patiently. That's who she was. Back at home, her mom finally smiled in a way she hadn't in years. Not because of the trophy, but because she saw something different in her daughter's eyes.
Strength.
Stillness. Purpose. She was no longer the same girl who had walked into that gym on a dare. That girl had been uncertain, nervous, half laughing at the idea of herself in a fight. Now there was no laughter, only fire. She started training harder, not because she needed to prove something, but because she wasn't finished. The tournament opened doors. Invitations came in. Regional bouts, training camps, sponsorship offers. It was overwhelming at times, but she kept her feet on the ground. She remembered every person who rolled their eyes when she first stepped in. Every comment, every doubt. They didn't bother her now. They fueled her. She never talked about destiny or natural talent. She didn't believe in magic paths. She believed in showing up. Every single day. Even when no one cheered. especially then. One day, during a break between sparring rounds, her coach sat next to her. He looked at her gloves, torn at the seams. "You're not a beginner anymore," he said. She nodded. "You still want this?" She looked him in the eye. "More than ever." He smiled. "Then it's time to take it further." And so it began again. New routines, harder drills, longer hours. The training was brutal, more intense than anything she'd done before. It broke her down all over again, physically and mentally. But she knew that pain. It was familiar. It meant growth. She sparred with champions now, people who had been in the game for years. She took hits that rattled her bones. She got knocked down. But every time, she stood back up.
Faster. Smarter.
Stronger. She studied footage between training sessions. She took notes. She watched her own fights, spotting every mistake. She didn't just want to win. She wanted to master the craft. And slowly she did. Her name started spreading beyond her city. Articles, mentions, videos of her fights being shared across social media. But she kept her circle small. Same coach,
Same gym.
same morning runs. Because she knew attention is loud, but discipline is quiet. One night, before a major fight, she sat alone in the locker room. No music, no voices, just the sound of her own breathing. She thought about that first day, the flyer,
The dare.
the disbelief, and she smiled, not because she made it,
But because she was still becoming. Still pushing.
still proving, not to them, to herself. The lights were brighter now, the crowds bigger, the arenas louder. But inside the ring, it always felt the same. Ropes, canvas, two fighters, one goal. This was her world now. Not because someone gave it to her, but because she built it, one punch, one mistake, one lesson at a time. The opponents changed. The stakes got higher. But her approach didn't. She still woke before sunrise. Still ran the same roads. Still wrapped her hands the same way. And still remembered the girl who started it all. She wasn't chasing fame. She wasn't chasing belts. She was chasing excellence. Her next fight was different. A main event. A title on the line. Her name in bold print. Interviews. Promos. Expectations. People called it her biggest challenge yet.
But she didn't see it that way.
To her, the biggest challenge was never her opponent. It was staying true to herself. As the fight approached, the pressure built. Everyone had an opinion. Some said she was too new, too humble, not aggressive enough. They didn't understand. She didn't fight with ego. She fought with purpose. On the night of the event, everything moved fast. Flashing cameras.
Noise.
Reporters asking questions she didn't care about. But when she stepped into the ring, it all disappeared. The noise faded. The lights dimmed. Time slowed. She locked eyes with her opponent across the ring. A veteran. Sharp.
Skilled.
Dangerous. But she didn't flinch. The bell rang. And just like before, she didn't rush. She read. She waited. She moved. Her opponent came out hard, testing her. Fast combinations. Heavy hits. Smart footwork. But she stayed calm. Let the storm pass. Then stepped in. Her counters were clean. Her timing perfect. She didn't dominate with force. She broke her opponent down piece by piece. Every round told a story. She got hit, yes. She stumbled once. But she always reset. Always adjusted. And she never gave in. The crowd saw it. The commentators saw it. That quiet power. That control. By the middle rounds, the tone had shifted again. Just like before. Whispers turned to cheers. Doubt turned to awe. She wasn't just surviving. She was taking over. Her coach said nothing between rounds now. Just handed her water. Because she already knew what to do. Round after round, she chipped away. Not with rage. Not with recklessness. With precision. With heart. In the final round, her opponent came out swinging. Everything she had left. But it wasn't enough. Because by then, she wasn't just fighting to win. She was fighting to prove this was no accident.
She dodged.
Countered. Landed 3 clean shots. Then one more. The crowd erupted. Not because she hurt someone, but because she revealed something. What it looks like when discipline meets belief. When struggle shapes strength. When someone rises, not once, but over and over again. The bell rang. She didn't raise her hands. Didn't scream. She just stood there, breathing steady, eyes clear. Because this was never about one moment. It was about the journey. And she knew it still wasn't over. When she walked out of the arena that night, the air outside felt different. Cooler, sharper, like something had changed, not just around her, but within her. Cameras still followed. Voices called her name. Strangers asked for photos. Journalists begged for interviews. She smiled, nodded, thanked them. But her mind wasn't on the noise. It was already on the next fight. Because that's what champions do. They don't rest in their wins. They grow from them. Back home, her old gym had become something of a legend. Young girls walked through the doors carrying dreams a little bigger now, because they'd seen her story. They had watched her rise, not through shortcuts, but through sweat. She never made it about herself. When she trained with everyone else. No special treatment. No corner office. Just the same floor, the same mirror, the same heavy bag. But the way people looked at her now, it carried something new. Admiration. Hope. And sometimes disbelief. One girl asked her quietly after a sparring session, "Did you really start with nothing?"
She paused.
Thought about the question. Then said, "I started with one choice. I didn't stop." Simple. But it stuck. She knew what it meant to be counted out. She remembered the looks, the laughter, the way people said, "It's not for you." That's what pushed her in the early mornings. That's what kept her running when her legs ached. That's what brought her back to the ring, even when the bruises hadn't healed. She didn't win because she was the strongest. She won because she stayed. People started asking her to speak. At schools. At youth centers. At camps. They wanted to hear about the rise, the glory, the moments under the lights.
But she always told them the parts no one saw.
The rejections. The tears she wiped away in silence. The fights she lost before anyone knew her name. Because that's where the real story lived. She told them about the girl who was laughed at for stepping into the ring. And how she didn't walk away. Not because she knew she would be great, but because she wasn't afraid to be a beginner. And that's what made the difference. In the weeks after her title fight, she returned to training. Not because she had to.
Because she wanted to.
New opponents were lining up. Bigger challenges. Her name was on posters now. Contracts waiting. But none of that touched the reason she fought. It was never about proving them wrong. It was always about proving herself right. She trained like she was still unknown. Still hungry. Still climbing. One night, while shadowboxing alone in the gym, she paused and looked at herself in the mirror. Sweat running down her face. Knuckles sore. And she smiled, not because she saw a champion, but because she saw someone who refused to quit. Every bruise had a lesson. Every scar had a purpose. Every round built her into who she was becoming. Not just a fighter. Not just a name. But a reminder that greatness doesn't come in a moment. It comes in the moments no one claps for. And she lived for those moments.